Hello and welcome to the Lapdown Grand Prix post-Zandvoort for the last time ever in the history of Formula One, until it's reinstated into a calendar at some point in the near future, because they decide that actually it wasn't all as bad as what we first thought. Is it the racing? Is it the money that Formula One decide that they do or don't want to go back to Grand Prix motor circuits? Who knows? My name's Dan, joined by Alex, and we've got multiple things that we'd like to talk about on the back end of what was, let's call it, an eventful, super packed weekend over in the Hollands.
Yeah, plenty happened at Zandvoort. I'm gonna hesitate to call it like a really good race. In terms of like, was that the best that sport could offer me in the sense of cars trying to cross a line first? Probably not. Was it an entertaining way to spend 90 minutes? Absolutely. Like it was one of those sort of randomizer races almost, where we fired off a few little Mario Kart power-ups and then the tires sort of didn't work how we expected them to, and it was all sort of quite good in the end. But yeah, I mean, I would take that over, a ball fest kind of Grand Prix. Yeah. Absolutely. Decent little Sunday afternoon.
It was a good fun weekend. It was a good fun weekend, and it was a good fun weekend that makes us think about 2027 and think, it's a shame we're not going back.
Yeah. And you asked the question there about, is it the racing or is it money that we're not going back to Zandvoort? And I think it's actually Zandvoort themselves that decided they didn't fancy doing this anymore, rather than being told by any of the various money-making people above them. They sort of thought they'd dip out while they were on top, which is valid, but to dip out on your record highest ever weekend attendance is bold. That's certainly an strategy. That have they gone too soon? Do you think the Dutch organisers will be regretting it now that they didn't just think one or two more?
I don't, but quite frankly, I don't care about the organisers of the Dutch Grand Prix. I think what I'm more interested about is what's the alternative? What do we get as an alternative? Because we know that weekend's not just going to disappear off the calendar now. Like, we're not just going to turn up next year and go, oh, by the way, guys, we've only got 23 races. That's not the case. We're going 24, and if anything, we're going to go 25, 26, 27, depending on what can happen and where we can go in the world. So what is the alternative? What do we get instead of Zandvoort? Maybe this has already been decided, because we are not an investigative journalism podcast, so may well have been news that you and I both haven't looked at. But if we end up, dare I say, God forbid, on a street circuit in some pokey little town somewhere around the world that nobody gives an arse about, that wasn't one of our approved new destinations in the previous episodes of the Lapdown podcast, then it's a terrible mistake and we should stay at Zandvoort.
Yeah, fair. The banking is cool, isn't it? I think we touched on this a little bit last week, but the banking bits are cool. It felt a little bit this weekend as well like there was perhaps more of an opportunity to overtake than in the last couple of years. Ignore the sprint race. The sprint race was utter wank. That was not a good advertisement for anyone or anything. But actually in the race, I felt like I saw cars putting pressure on and having a little look in a couple of different places rather than just an end of straight sort of dive down the inside. So perhaps next generation of cars, if we get a little smaller and we come back.
From a Lapdown podcast perspective, are we completely and utterly 100% against some form of pre/during artificial insemination into a Grand Prix weekend? Because that just little bit of dampness that we had before the referee blew the whistle and we kicked off for the Dutch Grand Prix, because that is the technical terminology for the start of a Formula One race. It did make it interesting, didn't it? It did help, obviously, of course, that there was a few things that happened on the exit of the final corner on the first lap, but it did then mix up a bit of tyre strategy later on in the race. It did kind of cause some lines to be a little bit kind of off-piste, and it did just make things slightly kind of more fun than maybe what the Dutch Grand Prix would have been otherwise. So, was Bernie Ecclestone barking up the right tree? And do we need to artificially inseminate, which again, I believe is the technical terminology for what we would need to do, some form of fun factor maybe we can start with cloud seeding and just see how it develops from there.
Yeah. I mean, I'm all for it. I'm an entertainment man. I'm an entertainment man. Look, sanctity, less important for me. If it gets me 90 minutes worth of good Zoom-ums around a sort of a wiggly circle, I'm all for it. I think he'll upset some people with the thought. But hey, Bernie had the right idea.
Yeah, he made some cash.
I think you could do it in non-extreme ways as well. So Oscar this weekend stuck the hard tire on with the intention of going long. And then he got 12 laps or something into that stint. Was like, these are just absolutely honking. Get them off. Gone. No interest. Thank you. These are dog. So even if it was something like that, do we stop telling the teams what the tire compounds are? Tell them you've got your soft, medium, and hard, but don't tell them what the C number is. Just, here they are, lads. They're rubber. Find out through your own testing. You can't plan ahead of knowing whether the C5 can do X number of laps. You can learn that out through your FP sessions, however you want to gather that data, and go that way. Would that put some more randomness into it? Because I don't think the hards weren't much better than the mediums, and then the softs seem to be ridiculous in this Grand Prix. They just seem to keep going forever. So whether you could play around with something like that, possibly. But then also we'll get a banger of a normal race at some point soon and we'll forget all about it. So maybe we should just go racing on tracks that promote good racing.
Could be a great idea. I'm quite excited for Sepang. I really am quite excited for that later on in the year because, I mean, that stinks of, oh my goodness, that was the best Grand Prix of the calendar of the last couple of years, and then we won't go back there again.
Yes.
So, or maybe it replaces Zandvoort. Who knows? Who knows what's going on? Or maybe we're going to, what was the name of that place that, was it Lynn? German Lynn suggested that we went to. What was the name of that place again?
Ferrero
Rocher Grand Prix.
That's the one. Ferrero Rocher. That's the one. Going back there.
Now I'm curious now. I'm going to have to scroll back. Super picking stuff.
Super picking stuff. We're in the emails.
Not a great kind of audio thing, is it? But look, it was a place that sounded fun. It was fun to say, and it felt like a good idea at the time. So
yes.
I'm quite happy with that.
I'll back it. Where should we begin?
I found it. I found it. Antananarivo. Antananarivo.
I was close.
Good. Done.
I was close.
Happy.
There you go. Let's go to Antananarivo. Where should we start with? I suppose we should unpack the melee at the beginning of that Grand Prix caused by the clumsiest driver on the grid who often loses it under his own steam, Max Verstappen.
Yes. Yeah.
Dare I say, really amateur mistake from Max Verstappen that you don't. I know he wasn't very well, I don't believe, in this Grand Prix weekend. I think he was sort of carrying a little bit of something. But dipping a tyre onto a wet painted white line at the bottom of one of the steepest, if not the steepest bank corner on the calendar on largely cold tyres, it's not the smartest of moves for a four-time world champion, five-time world champion. How many to win in the end? A lot of champions.
He's on 4, isn't he?
4, yeah.
I think he's 4.
Not the best idea.
No. I think it'd be one of those, with the benefit of hindsight, he'd probably look back on it and go, I wouldn't do that a second time.
Yeah.
I think. But he's had a couple of those this year, hasn't he, where he's just kind of all of a sudden just gone, nope, bye, Max. And you've watched it afterwards, you've gone, how the bloody hell have you managed to get to that point? I mean, I think it probably does highlight the fact that the car just isn't brilliant.
It's not there, is it?
Yeah, unsurprisingly, when you give these blokes something brilliant, whether it's Max, whether it's Lewis, whether it's Jenson Button in years gone by, or anybody of kind of well, it's only really been Hamilton and Max, hasn't it, over the couple of years, Norris as well. They normally are able to just make things work without really having to do too much. I think there's enough evidence to suggest here from Max now in 26 that this car just isn't quite there yet. Yes, that was a mistake. Of course it was. And had he have not touched the white line down the bottom, which is notoriously greasy when wet, he wouldn't have ended up sideways in the wall and then kind of with his Red Bull in a million pieces at the beginning of that start-finish straight. So it's on Max. But equally, if that car was absolutely spot on, I don't think it even notices the fact that it gets near a bit of paint.
No. And I think he's probably driving more fluidly and perhaps not trying to find absolutely every last bit of riding the limits on track spaces. He's
bad
doing
weekend
sort
to
of what
super
he wants
picking
to
though.
do. It was a bad weekend to super picking. Did someone do that perchance?
Yeah. Somebody did. Yeah. And I think again, I think that would fall in the hindsight category that having picked Max Verstappen and then seen him kind of in the wall and backwards and kind of going
immediately,
ouch. It felt like in hindsight that it wasn't the right thing to do.
Yeah, a little bit like just tapping that white line.
Yeah.
Quite
simple, really.
Should we start with super picking then? Should we have a look at where we stand on that? Because we've got your pick out the way. How many points did you get from the sprint for
8.5 points?
Okay, it's some. It's not
So,
none.
Considerably less than what I wanted. You had quite a good weekend, actually, for a change. It might be, no, it's not your highest scoring weekend because you did have George in Miami earlier on in the year, but you did pick up 26 points,
Lovely.
which puts you on a dizzying 150 points now.
Closing the gap. Closing the gap.
Points. Three people, Rosie, Dan 2, and the anti-Dan of Lynn, all had Liam Lawson. So good for them. 25 points for the double Ls, which I'd say is quite a nice return, to be fair, for Liam Lawson across the course of a weekend. So some good points climbing up for those guys. And the anti-AB obviously ended up with Lando Norris, who had quite a good weekend, which we'll talk about later, and finished up with 31.5 points, taking them up to 230, which means that they have 80 more points than yourself if you'd have just picked the complete opposite driver that you'd actually picked throughout the entire year. So good for you. The leader is currently Dan 2 on 242 points. Rosie sits in second place on 227.5 points, all the way from the lap pad. And in third place is the anti-Alex, Anthony Davidson, which isn't actually his real name, but it is according to the Lap Down Super Picking World Championship on 230 points.
Marvelous. Shout out to Rosie as well. Thinking of you, Rosie, this week. Thank you for getting your email in, and a wonderful email, as we've always had, from Dan too, who went with the subject line of strooper picking, which is just, that's good. A tier. Might be S tier work, strooper picking.
Yeah.
I think that is just superb.
Kind of worried about my status of Dan 1, if I'm honest.
In the face of strooper picking.
Yeah, I kind of feel, I do feel like I could be Isaac Hadjard out of my seat.
It's possible.
It's a chance.
Don't go to boxing this week.
No.
But Dan 2, lovely email as ever. Dan 2 had actually pre-picked Liam Lawson for this weekend and then had some doubts and then forced through those doubts. Nearly picked Yuki as well. And we'll get on to Yuki in a second because I think we both kind of pondered whether you go absolutely wild and bring Yuki in. Nobody did. Wouldn't have been the worst move, ultimately. But thank you all for being involved. teamradio@lapdownpod.com. If you would like to send thoughts or anything like that, you can, and you can do it on socials as well. Right. Where do we start? Should we start with Ukes? The old Yuki Meister. Oh.
No. I think we need to start just a little bit further back behind the Max Verstappen incident and talk about Gabriel Bortoleto doing a beautiful pirouette. Sorry, Bortoleto. Doing a beautiful pirouette, which was fun and exciting.
Yes.
But not half as fun of exciting until you saw the onboard from Nico Hülkenberg, who nearly drove straight into the middle of his teammate.
Yeah. It's insane driving skill, isn't it? Well, it's a couple of things, actually. It's insane driving skill, and it's also, and I think this is what you're going to get onto here, it shows that they are not the same as us, these drivers, in both a physical and also a psychological and a neurological sense. I watched Jolyon Palmer does some excellent analysis videos for F1 TV on YouTube, and he was talking about, in that moment, Hulkenberg can't see through that smoke. That it's not a foreshortening thing or anything like that where we can't see through it. It's a wall of white smoke. It's a flashbang smoke grenade. But it's just his spidey sense driver's instinct says, go high up here. And I mean, how he doesn't make any contact with him. It's insane. But it was, yeah.
Genuinely
Incredible
mental.
skill.
And about the most vanilla reaction that you could possibly give, I think, having driven, as you say, through essentially a flashbang. And all of a sudden you see a Formula One car parked sideways across the track in front of you. And you just go, that was crazy. I nearly T-boned Gabby. And the response comes through, yeah, I know. I was watching. And you're like, how have you not spent kind of 5 minutes on the M25 in 2026 calling every bastard out there who's got a driving license, whether a real one or whether one from Legoland, every name under the sun that you just possibly could wish to recite in any period? Like, you don't have to be on the M25 or any of Britain's major motorways in 2026 without stumbling across some absolute cockwomble of a driver. And how have we got to the point where the radio message from Nico Hulkenberg does not have a single bleep in it? A single bleep. Like, you or I, or everybody listening to that would have been like, what the fuck is the fucking sideways, fucking Audi, fucking bollocks, fucking shit, fucking oh my God, fucking oh hell. Like, all kinds of words. And he's just gone, that was crazy. I nearly T-boned him. And there was no animation in the voice at all. It was just like, just another day in Nico's life, really. I mean, that doesn't happen every day. Like, it baffles me. I know they're not allowed to swear anymore, but surely somebody down there was just going, it just explain it as AI. Maybe they use like 11 Labs or something to dub Nico Hulkenberg's voice over a really plain soundtrack.
It's possible. I am going to have to put the little E on this episode, I think. Get that in there. Perhaps. I mean, he finished P8 as well, by the way, Nico Hulkenberg. So good work from him. He finished P8 and a lap down.
It probably woke him up a bit.
Tremendous super pick. We assume, surely, not pressing the radio button in the car, he has to have expleted, one would think, briefly before recovering some level of cool. But yeah, it's across the board, isn't it? Actually, Lewis Hamilton is the exception this week. The general calm of drivers on the radio, and it comes back to the whole a short view back to the past bullshit and all the buttons and everything that they need to be pressing. That they're doing all of this, you forget how much they're doing, I think, and then also they have the thought process while doing all this to then also crack quips on the radio or be, ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous, but fair play to Nico Hulkenberg. Fair
Very
play
good.
Indeed. Good result well for Audi. Good points there. Good points for Nando as well. P9. Shout out to Nando. I saw a thing today
Are they back?
Well, they're looking better, aren't they? I saw a graph of their pace deficit is considerably smaller now than what it was. So the upgrades they are bringing are actually working, both engine and aero. And I saw a thing that he is keeping Fernando as their top priority for both Aston and Honda. They are very keen to extend him beyond this year, even if it's just for one more, which we have talked a couple of times, haven't we, about whether Fernando would carry on. And I guess he would now be seeing enough potential, and I'm sure he's getting some sim data and stuff like that through as well, that they could be decently midfield next year. Again, I don't think they're suddenly going to go front of pack, but I could see them being not an embarrassment basically next year. Worthwhile carrying on because I'll probably throw a boatload of money at it.
Yeah. I think the Stroll dollars they're an incentive, aren't they? They are an incentive. I think if I was him and I was in his situation at the age that he is, which I don't think, I don't know how old he is actually, to be fair, but I think if you were there and you were still doing okay, I think you would just keep going. I've spoken about it a lot. I think it's all about risk for me. And I just don't think, and I think I said it the last time around, I wouldn't wish anything to happen upon anybody, but there's so little risk associated to Formula One now with regards to physical harm. And I know that sounds silly because obviously with Hulkenberg and Bortoleto as a case in point, they could have gone a very different way, but it doesn't feel reckless anymore, does it, Formula One? It feels almost surgical rather than kind of blitzkrieg style driving. And I think with all of that in mind, you kind of go, well, do you know what? If I do end up in a bit of a wreck here, I am still just going to be able to hop out the car and take the helmet off, wave to the people that are going like
Yeah.
woo in the crowd, hop on the back of a moped, go back to the motorhome, sit there with my feet up and carry on the day.
Yeah. Fair. 45, Fernando Alonso.
Yeah.
45.
Good age. Great
Good.
age. Maybe.
He's up and about there. Up and about. Well done, Yuki, as well, while we're doing the well dones. Just a good, tidy weekend, I would say. I mean, he's finished P11, which is the most Yuki Tsunoda thing he possibly could have done. But he didn't look out of place. Finished ahead of Arvid Lindblad. I know Lindblad had a penalty that we'll get onto in a second, but good showing, I think. Good showing for Liam Lawson as well, to be fair. We touched on it through super picking, but he just kind of slotted in there. Both of them did a good job. Not that we should be surprised. He is the reserve driver. He will have simmed this, non-stop. But yeah, good. Well done. Well done, the Ukes.
There's nothing wrong with these guys, is there?
No.
No. They're not a... Who would have been the most kind of high-profile person lately or in recent years that would have been so far off the pace based on absolute just ability that you've looked at and you've gone, well, that's not a surprise, the fact that they've moved on. But it's all just... Pardon?
Mazepin. It's
Mazepin, yes. Yeah, Mazepin. Mazepin would be the guy. Or maybe that Sergei Sorokin would be another one.
Then, Mazepin is still 18 million times the driver I am. But I play a mediocre level of amateur cricket. That doesn't make me anywhere close to being a test match cricketer. I can still call Marnus Labuschagne shit and washed. Like it's we're in that gap, aren't we? But I would say, recent years. I guess what's his face as well? Latifi was not great, was he? He was off the pace.
That's Sergei Sorokin as well, but I don't know where he would have sat with regards to dating of those guys. Would have been that kind of batch anyway. And they're the guys that you look at and you go, yeah, I'm not really surprised they've moved on. But Yuki, if he'd have been in Formula One for the next 10 years, if his financial package was good enough, you wouldn't be surprised, would you? You wouldn't be surprised. And equally, I don't think you'd be disappointed with Yuki if he was in Formula One for 10 years, because you just go, I finished P12. It's all right. No problem.
Kind of Hulkenberg-y in that way. Very good driver, not a massive accolades driver, good, relatively dependable. Hulkenberg is just kind of Yuki with more experience, I think, in terms of there is a bit of a skill cap.
If now we need a little bit of imagination here on the Lapdown podcast, so bear with me at the moment and get your answers in the emails if you feel like you need to. If we were just rating drivers on pure ability, and if financial packages and budgets and money coming into the sport was irrelevant, which is a very hypothetical world, I mean, I think Yuki would probably still be there.
Yeah, I would say so.
You'd get rid of Stroll straight away, wouldn't you? For one, there's a seat available. Easy doors. He's gone. He's finished straight away. Who else would be?
Franco Collia Pinto, I think, is probably on the bubble. Certainly,
I'd say he's a worse driver than Tsunoda.
Yeah, on form and experience that we've.
Bortoletto, I would say, is a worse Formula One driver than Yuki.
Yeah.
I think you could create a bit of an argument, and I know we haven't got the benefit of volume of information, but I'd say Lawson and Lindblad would be kind of on that kind of tier where you'd go.
They're certainly not clearly better, are they? They're not. No, you said last week, Lawson is not 25% better than Yuki Tsunoda. They would over a season, I think, head to head, just equal machinery and all that other bullshit. Will run pretty. Would run pretty similar, wouldn't they?
Yeah.
So
justice for Yuki.
Justice for Yuki. Justice for Yuki. Justice also for Franco Collia Pinto and Arvid Lindblad, because those penalties were a disgrace. I have always been, and I can bring receipts on this podcast, that I am very fine with safety-based penalties, and that we don't mess around with yellow flags and we don't mess around with procedures that are in the sport to keep volunteer marshals and all the rest of it safe. Great. None of that applies in this situation. If you haven't seen the exact, the onboards of what they've been penalized for, it is worth finding a way to seek them out. They'll be on YouTube or something somewhere. The fraction of a second that all of this goes down in, they've been done for overtaking under yellow flags. The yellow flag was active for like one mini sector. I think it was one marshal's post, this yellow flag, because then after that they're on the straight and it's straight back to green. No yellow flag comes out or is visible to either of them at the moment that they overtake. And they don't even make an overtaking move. They're just driving through an incident and happen to have had a more beneficial position by the nature of they were one extra car back, so they could see the incident happen earlier. They could pull up the banking to get themselves out of harm's way. And it just turned out that in both cases, the car on the inside had to slow down more because they were slightly more inside. And then just the balance of power down a straight, they got out dragged. How can that be a drive-through penalty and not, like you said before we started recording, bit of insight, me and Dan talk off stream. You said it was a red flag. Just, hey, lads, we're just going to invert these, or offer it to them. Hey, would you like to invert these? Here's what we've seen. It baffles me. And I'm not surprised that Argentina are upset at the FIA and are making that known in messages and all the rest of it.
Yeah, they're quite easy to antagonize, aren't they, the Argentines, particularly when it comes to sport. I mean, we saw that in the kickball World Cup, that they were a little bit sparky, shall we say. And I think they have every right to be here in this particular instance. I don't necessarily condone the racist kind of songs that some of the footballers sing, but this one in particular, every right to get your ass in your hand about it, because it is bollocks. And there are a lot of other ways that, as you said, about the red flag and reinstating positions and things like that, that could have been done, that all feels like a much more amicable way to have actually dealt with it, rather than almost leaving somebody out there to kind of perish. And as you say, there's a fine line, isn't there, between, I think, making a mistake or being oblivious to a situation, which still kind of needs noting, and actually kind of deliberately doing something to gain an advantage. And I think we're in the situation here that those guys were both kind of oblivious to the situation or unaware of the situation, and therefore did gain an advantage for it, which could have then been rectified at a later date. But it kind of is a bit like, you know, when you play the old Formula One games, and you'll like this reference because this is how we judge all of the quality of the motor circuits. And, you know, like if there's a bit of a crash or something, which the AI don't do very often, and then they've got like, it's all glitched and there's about 9 cars that are just parked nose to tail behind this crashed car. And you're sitting there because you've started P19 or something, and you're going, well, I just drive past them. And they're actually stationary, and I can just go around the outside here, no problem at all. I've got aspirations to go. And then all of a sudden it pops up and it goes, you have 7 seconds to give the positions back. And you go, well, how the bloody hell am I meant to give the positions back? Because like they're parked. And it pops up and it goes 3-second penalty, 3-second penalty, 3-second penalty, 3. And you end up with a 15-second penalty because the AI in the game is just glitched essentially, and it doesn't work. It's basically, so we're either saying that Formula One stewarding is very, very similar to what we get on a Formula One game, or vice versa, or maybe the stewards just glitched in real life.
Yeah, I think that's probably what it is. It's just there's no. I don't even want common sense.
It's the big C word, isn't it? Drop a C-bomb on us. Drop a C-bomb.
They're being cunts again.
No, not that C-bomb. Not that C-bomb. It's consistency again.
Yeah.
That's all we want from these law appliers. We just want consistency, and it's always going to circle back to the point that it's a different bastard in that seat every single week. And we're never, ever going to get consistency. And if that happens again next weekend, it's likely to be somebody else sat there and they're just going to turn around and go, well, it actually makes sense just to kind of say, boys, do you want to just switch it back around because we felt as though, and everyone goes, yeah, it's fine, no worries, carry on.
Crack on. Yeah. Dumb. Justice.
Stupid.
For justice for everyone this episode. We just want justice.
Yeah.
Just justice.
If there's any justice in the world.
Yeah, apply it now. Lando Norris looked fucking rapid.
Yeah.
He looks a bit back. I know McLaren have brought some updates and stuff, but he's just driving really well at the minute. And I think putting to bed any of the irritating social discourse of, you know, was he actually a champion and all this, that, and the other and all that, you know, absolute wallop that you get on social. But he just looked very strong all weekend. quali trim, race trim, sprint trim. Just a good weekend to be the other papaya car, I think, and not be Oscar Piastri. It's good business.
Yeah, I was just doing some quick maths because I
Mm,
haven't got the ability to do that. But he's currently 83 points behind Kimi.
yeah.
Is this the narrative for the rest of the Grand Prix? How many weeks have we got left? How do I navigate the Formula
1,
One?
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11.
11. So it's a lot. He's going to need to outscore Kimi by 7.54 points per Grand Prix for the next 11 races.
Which is near enough winning all of them in Kimi's P2, isn't it? Like he basically needs to win everything and then
Yeah.
yeah.
I don't
and
think
have
that's
something
possible,
else.
do you?
I think it's highly, highly, highly unlikely.
Hmm.
I would say he's not out of it in a ridiculous sense, but last year when we were talking about Max Verstappen and being 100 points back, and he sort of took it to the final race, I have
Yeah.
hopes that at least we're no longer in blowout territory, and that, or he's going
Yeah.
to keep him very honest, because that car does look like it can perform well, and yeah, they've got something together now. I think
They
they've got
do.
something together.
They do. And it would be nice to see a bit of jeopardy, I think, for the next 11 Grand Prix, because even George, I've just done that. Like, he would need to outscore Kimi by about 5.75 points per race, which
Yeah,
again is still I need to win everything and you
yeah,
need to finish second type situation. I mean, George has shown, apart from the first weekend of the season, shown very little evidence to suggest that he's going to go off and win every Grand Prix between now and the end of the season. Lando, I think, would be more likely to go and win 11 on the bounce. I think.
mm-hmm.
But again,
Yeah,
I mean, 11 on the bounce. Yeah, I
it's a
don't know.
lot.
I just,
It's a lot. It's a
it,
lot when
it
we've
does.
got two, I think, Chaos Grand Prix coming up, because I think the Madrid could be Chaos because they don't have
Yeah.
anything to work on. There was something like 19 red flags in the F3 practice session there the other day, because it's just no one knows what's going on. It's obviously a bit of
Yeah.
it's a tricky circuit, semi-street circuit. And then Sepang, who knows? Again, no data.
Yeah.
Could be an absolute banger to watch because they've just got
Yeah.
nothing to work from in these cars. So you
Weather.
think those kind of Grand Prix are not conducive to winning all 11 on merit and skill. But
Yeah.
I'd like it. It would be exciting.
I would like it. Well, the other thing as well, it feels like each Grand Prix really favors one particular car or the other, doesn't it, nowadays? It doesn't feel as though cars develop kind of all-round Formula One cars. You go, yeah, well, we know this one's going to be good here because they're very good at low temperatures. Or we know this one's going to be very good here because, they're exceptionally good at altitude. Or it seems the way that they've developed the car is. And the Mercedes will have at least another one, if not two, if not three, if not four Grand Prix where their car will, by default, naturally prefer a Mexico City, for example, because it's got higher top end speed or whatever that might be. So yeah, it feels, I don't know. And I mean, Kimi just doesn't even feel like he's giving you the inclination that he's going to cock anything up either.
No. He's racing well, and even when it's not going his way, he's recovering that back into a strong spot. I mean, he didn't qualify brilliantly in this, and then he just managed to pull off just a couple of really nice moves early doors, get himself back in the hunt, and then it wasn't quite there. So yeah, I can't see it fully happening, but it's nice to have a storyline that isn't just which of the Mercedes drivers will win it, and that even wasn't a storyline for a bit. I saw an interesting quote from Toto that said Mercedes don't have currently the budget allocated to be able to compete with McLaren's speed of upgrades, which they're not short of money, and that's not sort of necessarily what he's saying, because they're both going to be operating at the cap. It's more, I get the impression that Mercedes have maybe spent a lot more of their pennies to get to where we are now and maybe front loaded a bit, rather than McLaren have maybe been a little bit more frugal to have catch up money. So that will be one worth watching to see what sort of upgrade packages Mercedes can bring to counter this, because we've always said on this podcast, because we know these kinds of things, McLaren tend to do upgrades really well, and when they bring them, they do tend to work and be impactful. So I do wonder whether some of this early season pace differential was Mercedes went hard early and are now possibly not being found out, but being caught because others are now starting to spend and catch up.
Yeah, we're very technical, aren't we, on this podcast?
Very.
My question on it would be, why would the teams differ so much? Surely it doesn't really feel right to me that McLaren would just kind of turn up with a half-baked car and go, you know what, what we're going to do is we're going to save 50% of our budget so we can play around with it later on in the season. Surely they're going to want to be out the blocks early doors, aren't they? I don't know. But what incentive would a team have for not kind of spending the money to develop a car that kind of is good to start with?
I guess start of new regs, if you're not 100% on certain elements, perhaps, or where we're going in certain bits. I mean, it was quite a fundamental change, wasn't it? So I get like for next year, for example, I think, yeah, you probably invest heavier over winter. But like we didn't expect to see, rotisserie chicken wing business happening. Not that McLaren then developed that once they'd seen it, all accounts, it's something they'd already looked at. But all you needed was an Adrian Newey to come out with something that no one else had thought about. And then if you've not got any like heavy dev money left to go from there. But I mean, I think Mercedes' plan has and will still work. If this is true, of course, this is my reading of Toto's quote there. If that is the way they've gone with it, it's working and has worked, and they will win the constructors' title this year, and they will almost certainly win the drivers' title as well. So you can't fault their logic with it. It could also be bollocks. Toto is prone to that, and they may bring the largest update package of the year next week. We don't know.
Yeah.
So
as I said, it just doesn't. It just doesn't. It doesn't work. It doesn't compute with my brain. And I don't want to get. I don't necessarily want to get stuck on this because I think I'm just going to end up in like a never-ending spiral and a circle here because I don't think it's ever going to compute with my brain. But what I can't work out with it is, relatively speaking, the people across those 11 teams are going to get paid relatively the same, right? Relatively speaking, we're not going to have like a head of aero for Cadillac on £22,500 a year and the head of aero at Mercedes on £183,000 per year, and therefore Cadillac have got more money to spend because that doesn't work. Or have Mercedes spent so much money on parts and bits that they've just kind of built in the off season that they've stuck in a wind tunnel, and it has worked or hasn't worked, that out the back of their factory at Brackley, they've just got hundreds and hundreds of prototype front wings and rear wings and side pods and things where it's just gone, nope, crap, chuck it in the skip, move on to the next one. Whereas McLaren have gone, well, we're only going to make one.
Yeah.
And then once we've got it out on the circuit, we're going to have a little bit of a figure out and see what doesn't work. Look, I'm sure Toto is telling some kind of truth. But it doesn't make a lot of sense to me that that's how kind of a high-level team would operate in either vein. That one would turn around and go, that'll do, and we'll figure it out later. Don't worry about it. We'll figure it out. And it also doesn't make any sense to me that Mercedes would be wasteful with a cost cap and just develop a whole load of stuff on the off chance that they might stumble across the bit that works. So I don't know. Not sure. Something doesn't. In my brain, it's not working.
No, and I don't get the sense from his quote that he's implying that there's any shithousery going on either. It's not a stirry kind of quote of look into their finances there over the cost cap. It's not that kind of thing. It almost seems like he's trying to downplay situations or positions just based on how things are going and trying to put that sort of in a budgetary sense. It could also just be an excuse for, oh shit, we're being outdeveloped here. And we are spending exactly the same as them and they're just coming up with better solutions.
Because even as like from, and I've never been one, so take this with a pinch of salt, but surely like even from a CFO kind of perspective, like your job as a CFO for one of these things isn't just going to be a case of going, well, here you go, here's £1.5 billion, do what you want with it. Yeah. And then on month 3, you can't come back and go, we spent all the money, can we have some more, please? Surely the role of the CFO is to kind of go, okay, well, look, we're going to go through heavy development here. So here's the budget, but we need to make sure we can keep our head above water and keep the lights on essentially through the rest of the year, paying gas and electric and water bills and things like that. That I don't know. Weird that.
Yeah, weird, but worth watching. Worth watching.
Go on the Maccas.
Go on. Get on them. Team orders, very quickly. I don't have a huge amount to say about it. Mercedes, thoughts on the little switcheroo at the end? Where do you stand on team orders full stop? It's been a while since we've discussed out and out invert position kind of stuff like this.
Yeah. Doesn't make much sense to me, to be honest. It does make sense, but I don't like it. I understand completely the logic behind this one for Mercedes.
Yeah.
But they also decided to box Antonelli under the VSA and they decided not to box George. They kind of created their own problem in that sense. And then they fixed their own problem. But if Kimi was in such a better position than George, surely he could have just gone past him on track. I think the quote from George was, well, is Kimi quick enough to go and catch Lando then or something, wasn't it? And I think Lando still won by about 11 seconds. So evidently
the answer was no.
So I don't know. Yeah. But then in that instance, should Kimi have just given the space back? Because George gave him the opportunity to go and get it in the first. I don't know. It's just messy, isn't it?
Yeah. And Kimi was P2 pre being stopped, which is why they were so comfortable with swapping him back. That George, in theory, never gave up a net P2 in that swap. It was a little bit papaya.
No, but then if Kimi hadn't stopped, he would have still been P2.
Yeah. So
it feels a bit. It feels a bit kind of number one drivery, doesn't it? There's a whiff. There's a whiff of number one driver about it. I'm not saying it stinks of it. I'm just saying there's a whiff.
Just a whiff. And we touched on it earlier, a whiff of anger from Lewis. He was a shouty boy on that team radio, which I don't remember him really being like that at Mercedes particularly. Certainly back in my time, Mercedes. I appreciate he might have been slightly gruffer early on. He seems a lot more willing to call out Ferrari than he ever did Mercedes. And he seems a lot more willing to be directly critical in the moment. I remember a few times with Mercedes where he would be confused or unhappy possibly with the initial thought, but seemed to trust the pit wall a lot more. And he'd be like, really? Yeah. Okay. I don't think there's the okay anymore. It's just really fuck yourself. Is the version now. I guess it shows he cares and he's really invested in trying hard.
I think so. I don't think we can underestimate how good of a relationship him and that like Peter Bonington had as a dynamic duo on the pit wall. And I kind of feel like if Bono had said to Lewis, jump off the cliff. Lewis probably would have gone, it's a bit high. Look, I trust him. I'm going to do it. Yeah. If Bono had said it and Lewis had gone, there's 7 great white sharks down there with like massive teeth. I'm going to go, Bono, I don't think that's the right thing to do. But I think the level of trust there was so big. I don't think he trusts anybody there on his team. Not a case of doesn't trust them, but I think it's almost somebody there at Ferrari needs to build the trust up, and it hasn't really worked.
I think it's a confidence thing more than a trust thing, as much as anything. He doesn't have confidence.
They replaced the first guy, didn't they?
Yes, and he seemed to be getting on better with his new engineer. That personal relationship seemed to be stronger.
Could we get Bono back? Could we get Bono in red?
I think they tried to get Bono in red, didn't they? And then Bono was just not interested in moving to Italy.
I mean, I don't know. There's just, I know you've not got the longevity in it, but I can't imagine there's much sweeter than winning in a Ferrari. Like if that feels like the pièce de la résistance. That feels like yes, fine, he's won 7 world championships already, but if he won 8 and it was in a red car, I just feel as though that one there would be worth slightly more than what the other ones would have done. And that's not to discredit anything else, but it just feels like the combination that's just worth a little bit more.
Do you think Bono stays at Mercedes because he can see I appreciate he's already very senior there, but a senior position promotion in the short to mid term, because Toto will eventually retire from direct day-to-day duties and will just sit there and count his money as a part owner of the team, won't he? And I'm not suggesting the Bono goes straight into TP business, but I could see him becoming a head of race engineering office job as opposed to a pit wall job, and he can probably see that a lot easier at Merck than Pro, which he would deserve, having never met the bloke and not really knowing what he actually does day to day. I can say that with confidence that he would deserve that. I wonder if there's a little bit of that at play as well. Like, I'm in the UK, I have a family, and then also this employer that I've been at with for however many years is more likely to promote me to more money and less travel.
Yeah, I think that's part of it. I also think the other thing is maybe he just doesn't want to wear red shirts and red trousers. It's not a great look, is it?
Yeah, likes a white shirt.
It isn't. It's not a great look. I mean, you could switch up one or the other. You could switch it up and maybe go for some like black or kind of charcoal trousers with the red kind of button-up shirt, or vice versa. You could keep with the red trousers if you want, but go for a nice kind of white or maybe a cream shirt or something just to mix it up a touch. But red on red it's quite garish, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a lot of red.
It's a good combo, and I think your shoes are red as well. I would guess. And I'd be surprised if they don't have red Ferrari pants and red Ferrari socks. And when you really think about it, when you're really kind of coming down to the bottom line and you're thinking, do I want to go to Maranello? Do I want to stay in Northampton? I mean, what are the positives? You've got pizza and pasta and ice cream, or you've got like Dave's kebab van down the end of the A45 or whatever it is, fish and chips, of course. You could go and watch the Stillbacks on a Friday night.
Good.
I think it just comes down to the fact you don't want to wear red trousers.
I think that's it. I think it's the outfit. That makes complete sense. Makes complete sense. Right. Is that the Dutch Grand Prix? I think that's the Dutch Grand Prix.
I think we've Dutched it.
Where can they find you, Dan, if they want to see you talk about things other than the Dutch Grand Prix?
Dan Chad's on the internet if you'd like to find me over there. You can see some crickety things if that's what you're into. If that's your kink, then you could do. If it isn't, go and watch Alex play games. I'm sure he's probably paving a motorway with a team of beavers or something at the moment.
Yep, all of that. Twitch.tv/hey look, it's Alex. Dan's got it pretty much spot on there. It's that kind of bullshit.
What are you doing at the moment?
A little bit of City Skylines at the minute.
Did you see there's a Lego thing? Lego Skylines. Is that on your radar?
That's a radar. That's a radar.
100%. Yeah, on the radar.
Nice. In the meantime, at LapdownPod, you can go and follow us there on YouTube and TikTok and Instagram, and you can email teamradio@lapdownpod.com, leave a review, share it with someone, leave a comment, all that kind of stuff. We will see you next week to talk about Monza. Doodle pip.
See ya.